Welcome to Season 15, Episode 14 of the Young Hearts Run FreePodcast. You will maybe notice, or you'll notice very soon, that there's no Stevie Boy tonight, dear listeners. He is winging his way transatlantic. So, tonight, for your listening pleasure, it is going to be myself, John Cassidy, and Gregor Yates we're going to be speaking to. Gregor's done something quite magnificent in the second half of the glorious month of May, and we're going to find out all about that. But first of all, how are you doing, Gregor?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you very much for giving up your time to talk with the Young Hearts Run FreePodcast. We always ask our guests to give a wee bit of an introduction of themselves and set the scene, give us a bit of background information about what brought Gregor Yates from the start of his life to where we are just now. So, in a running context, what's your backstory, Gregor?
So it's probably quite similar to a lot of people, sort of a lot of guys that get to 30 or so. I played a lot of football kind of in my 20s. I was kind of typical going out quite a lot in my 20s, but before that I did a lot of hill walking. So as I was growing up, I spent a lot of time following my dad up Munros. I actually finished the Munros when I was 19, so that was my childhood, was kind of following my dad up the Munros, which I thought was normal at the time, but wasn't. And then kind of fell away from that a bit in my 20s. As I say, played a lot of football, and then I got to 29, and I thought, probably because I was looking at things from a football point of view, I was thinking, I'm 29, I'm almost past it. I need to do a marathon. So kind of signed up for a marathon at that point. And how did it go? It went all right up to about mile 22. As it often does for your first marathon, and then had to walk. But I finished that in 3:11 or so, which was not bad, but close enough to 3 hours to think that I need to give it another crack, break the 3 hour mark. So did that in my second marathon. Was a wee bit more structured in terms of how I was training for that. Wasn't just kind of playing football twice a week and then doing a long run. And then I joined the club, so I joined the Bella Harriers, and that would have been back in 2016. And then just kind of got on that kind of train of kind of becoming obsessed with running, and kind of basically doing London Marathon. I think I did London Marathon 3 years in a row, so I got my marathon time down sort of from 2:54, 2:40 down to 2:34, 2:32, 2:30. So those last two, which I think were sort of 2018, 2019, I was very much trying to break that 2:30 barrier, which I found quite difficult. And then sort of 2020 COVID hit. As it happened, I ended up moving back in with my parents for a little bit, and they live out sort of near Callander, so out in the Trossachs. So I was doing a lot of trail running because I was working from home as well. Probably had a bit more to, like, I think a lot of people at that time kind of fell off the wagon and did less running, but I was definitely doing more. Doing a lot of trail running, doing a bit of hill running. Just probably got a wee bit of a break from doing lots of racing, which probably helped me. And then obviously we had about a year where we couldn't do anything. And then when things opened up back in sort of 2021, so at that point, I'd done a lot of 10Ks and halves as well. And so my sort of 10K PB at that point was 32:07 or something. So I thought, right, I'll do a 10K in London and I'll try and break 32. So I went down to London and felt pretty good, did the first half in 15:20. So I thought, I'm either going to blow up massively or this is going to go really well. So, and then the second half I ran it in 15:10. So I ran 30:30 for that, which was like a big PB off basically kind of a year's training throughout COVID. And actually, I've not really ran anything close to that any time since. But from that, I ran London Marathon in 2021, so I ran 2:23 there. So that was about, I think that was about 7.5 minute PB. And then since that, so over the last sort of 5 years, I've done 4 more marathons, and they've all kind of been in that kind of similar time span of something between sort of 2:23, PB'd at 2:21 in 2024. And then my last 2 have been 2:23 and then 2:22. So that would probably take me to the point of just talking a wee bit about the thing that I've just done, which is running the length of Scotland. So just at the end of that last one, you know, I've not PB'd, but I'm 42, so I know that the 2:22 marathon's good and everything, so I was happy with it. But having done sort of so many marathons and just kind of pushing myself pretty hard in training, and often doing a lot of that training on my own, I just kind of knew I'd got to the point where I wanted to do something a wee bit different, and probably something moving away from that focus on speed, pushing myself to the limit kind of every week. So just for a wee bit more context, my mum was in Strathcarron Hospice 3.5 years ago. So when she passed away, I'd always kind of thought I would do something to kind of just to give something back to the hospice and to kind of mark my mum's life. But at that time, you know, because I was doing marathons all the time, and I was thinking I'd probably do something running related, but it would have to be something quite big for people to sponsor me, given that I was running marathons at least once a year anyway. So I felt kind of in December this year that was like the right time to do it, and just kind of, at least for a while, move away from the kind of competitive side of running. So I think it was, I was going up Ben Ann. It was December. I went up Ben Ann a couple of times in December, and it was just really nice weather. And I thought, I want to be doing a bit more of this kind of stuff, running in nice places. And then just the idea of running Scotland, I don't know how it popped into my head, but it did. And then it just, it's like any idea. It's like you get a seed of an idea, and then you've not committed to it, but it just kind of grows, and then you keep thinking about it, and you're out running, and you think, I just need to commit to this. I need to tell people that I want to do it, and then commit to it. So I think probably about maybe beginning to mid-January, I committed to it, and then started sort of, well, I didn't really know how to train for it, to be honest, but I knew I had a good kind of background of running and like a lot of volume in my legs. So I knew how to train for a marathon, but I didn't really know how to train for a slow marathon. So I just kind of started going out to Aberfoyle, so I grew up in Aberfoyle, but I live in Killearn now. So it was about a 20-minute drive. So I started going out to Aberfoyle, and I just do sort of, first run was like an 18-mile run, and then I'd increase it by 2 miles until I got up to about 26 miles. So I was just doing those runs very slowly. And I've never done an ultra, so I've never taken on food or worn a backpack running. So like the most I've taken on is a gel.
Yeah.
So it was actually quite new. It was all quite new to me, which excited me.
Lots of learning to do.
There was, and what did I learn? I learned that don't start eating when you're running uphill, I would say.
You find that one out. Can I jump back just a wee bit?
Yeah.
I know we're getting into that story, which is brilliant. I can't wait to dive in more. You mentioned London marathons. What other marathons, like locations, where were they? You mentioned Tokyo. Where else have you been?
Yeah, so first one was Barcelona. So that was on my 30th birthday back in 2014. And then I did Edinburgh after that. I think I've done London 3 or 4 times. Rotterdam, Tokyo, as you said, Berlin, and Valencia was the last one I did. I think I've missed one, but
okay,
it's an idea.
We all spread out, and there's a bit of marathon tourism in there as well. Going for a wee holiday, but
yeah, there's a little bit. I think there was probably probably got a bit obsessed with trying to break time, so I was always looking at where's the fastest marathon.
Yeah. And that I'll come back to that as well, because marathon on tarmac as opposed to marathon on trail is a whole different scenario, a whole different
Yeah.
project. But the very first thing you said was that you finished all the Munros at the time you were 19 years old. Is that a record?
No, probably wouldn't have been that far off a record at the time, but I think there's like kids that are about 10.
Really?
These days, there's like, I saw something on the internet. It was like, I can't remember. It was like a 12-year-old girl finished them.
Wow. The
So,
life, yeah. Some, as you say though, it felt at that age, it felt normal to you. That's what you did.
yeah, kind of, yeah. I think when I was doing it, I don't even know if I enjoyed it, to be honest. But it's
Yeah,
obviously shaped me quite a lot without realizing it.
yeah.
I was just kind of following my dad up hills.
And it probably stood you in very good stead for this project, this adventure that we're going to
Yeah.
speak about. And you mentioned about your mum being in Strathcarron Hospice, and then you were raising funds for that. Do you want to say a wee bit about your mum? Do you want to speak about your mum?
I can say a little bit. It's, I think it's a funny. So when I did this challenge, a lot of people are like, "Oh, your mum would be really proud of what you're doing," and I know she would, but she wasn't somebody that would be expecting me to do something like this. She would probably say to me, "Oh, don't bother doing that on my behalf. Don't bother running a marathon every day, putting yourself through that on my behalf," because she was quite a selfless person. So she, I, I think I told her I'd thought about doing something like this, not this exactly. And she just said, "Oh, just do whatever you want. So do what makes you happy." So obviously I'm doing it for her, but I know that she would just want me to do whatever made me happy. So that was just that was the person she was.
There's
She was very selfless.
a brilliant photograph of your mum on your first day.
Yeah.
It's going through the photographs on your Instagram. It's a
Yeah.
brilliant photograph of your mum. She's outside in the hills, out in
Yeah.
nature. Was she like that too? Like being outside?
Not, no, not, no, not to the same extent. I kind of got that from my dad. So my dad's a 5-time Munroist, so he's a bit obsessed, and he was a runner as well. So, no, she wasn't. That photo actually, no, the one you mean. It was so that day I was just looking through my phone and I forgot that I had that photo. So it was actually a surprise to me when I found that, and I was a bit hesitant about putting that one. It's very personal,
Mm.
put something like that up. So. But yeah, no, that was a nice photo, that one.
If you didn't, maybe we could share that one. If you're okay to do that,
Yeah,
we can do
yeah.
that. And let's talk about May the 14th to May the 31st. Are these days significant?
They are, yes. Well, I think May the 30th, or was it the 31st? Maybe it was the 31st.
Okay.
Aye,
Well,
anyway,
you'll
we're
know. You'll
splitting
know better
hairs.
than me.
So yeah, that was when I started. So that's when 14th of May is when I started my run this year. So less than a month ago now. So I ran the length of Scotland, and I started in. So I decided to follow the kind of Scottish National Trail. Well, partly follow the Scottish National Trail, which links up lots of different trails across Scotland. So that starts in a little place in the borders called Kirk Yetholm. And the idea was that I would run a marathon a day for 17 days until I got to far northwest of Scotland, which is CapeWrath, which is what I did, which is what I managed to do. It was difficult because every day I'd planned it quite meticulously, where I was staying, where I needed to be. We had a camper van that was rented for the northern part, so there wasn't really much option for slippage. So each day I had to get to where I was planning to start the next day. So that in a way was good because you're just like, right, I need to get there. Whereas if there was a bit of a possibility to be like, right, okay, I don't need to get as far today, then you might take that option up, but I didn't have that option. So
Yeah. How difficult was it to plan logistically? Did you do it all yourself, or did you have a team helping you?
I did it all myself. So I don't think I did it perfectly by any means. So I was just, I'm a geographer, so I do like looking at maps. And as I say, I've done the Munros, and I should probably have better navigation skills than I do, given that I've done the Munros. But I'm not bad at that kind of stuff. So I spent quite a lot of time looking at maps and thinking about possible routes. So I kind of mapped out each day. So I knew what I was doing, but within each day there would always be at least one or two possibilities where I could go a different route, and I didn't want to be too prescriptive about it. So each day it was a bit more of an adventure if I had possibility to go a slightly different way. But I knew pretty much what I was going to be doing each day. And I'd walked the first 4 days already, so I kind of knew that I should be okay for those days at least. And then after that, I was going through the Central Belt, which I know well, and you're just on the canal and stuff. And then I was on the West Highland Way. So that was fine from a kind of navigation point of view. But then it was once I had another day after that, just going up Great Glenway, and then you get to Glengarry, and then it kind of gets serious because you're into like proper Highlands.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
always felt like that when I was planning it. It was always something that was in two parts. And when I got to that day in Glengarry, which was maybe maybe 9 or 10, I think, day 9 or 10, I was like, right, that's kind of when it properly starts. And most of that northern part I was doing on my own as well. I had quite a bit of help early on. So I think of it in different stages.
Yeah, and I think, well, you've got to break it up, haven't you? Because it's like the whole length of Scotland is a
Mhm.
big thing, so you've got to break it up. And I must admit, I've never heard of anybody on the length of Scotland. I know people do Land's End, John O'Groats, and vice versa, the other way. But I've never heard of
Yeah.
anybody joining up all these paths to do it that way. There's the GB Ultras do the race across Scotland,
Mhm.
but to do um, to go vertically is something that I'd never heard about. And then also, there's a lot of people who have had a loved one in a hospice, and they're amazing places, hospices, and they give brilliant respite and care and support. Well, not everybody says, I'm going to run the length of this country to do something. So how important is it to you to give something back?
Yeah, no, it was all, yeah, very important. I think so my mum was there for just about a week at the end of her life, and me and my dad were there for all of that, pretty much all of that time. So I think what I kind of realised is, the nurses that are there and the doctors that are there, they obviously see this like week after week. My mum's just one patient that comes in for then, and then they go through the whole process like again, and they do that week after week. So in terms of their like mental resilience, I was just kind of amazed at how they just keep doing that and how it was just amazing, and they gave amazing care to my mum. So yeah, I always felt like I wanted to give something back, but it was just finding the right timing
Yeah,
and doing the right challenge. And I think if I'd done it immediately after my mum had passed away, it wouldn't have been the right timing because I wouldn't have been in the right headspace. But going into this, I felt kind of quite positive about it. Do you know what I mean? Like I was
hmm.
thinking about my mum at times, but in a good way.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas if I'd done it straight afterwards, it would have been a big crying fest and I might have given up.
Yeah, because we all we all grieve differently, but maybe right close after your mum's passing, so it's still too raw to be doing something like that. Because
Yeah.
you've got to have strength to do what you've done. So
Uh-huh.
but it sounds like the timing was very appropriate and a absolutely lovely thing to do, both in memory of your mother, but also for the hospice, because that care and that support is never going to not be required. There's always, you mentioned
Hmm.
it the next week they're doing it again and again and again. That's going to be
Yeah.
going to continue. So it's brilliant what you've done. When you put the message out, when you put the word out there, that's a big thing as well, to make it public. How did it feel putting it out there, and the sort of feedback you got before you even started? How did it feel?
I felt exciting. I think it was like the most excited I've been about anything running related for like 3 years. So I think I'd probably done 1 or 2 marathons too many in terms of what I was enjoying.
Yeah.
And I will go back to doing them, but I just needed to kind of break the cycle. So yeah, I told my wife and my dad. My dad was excited. And my wife was, yeah, she's just like, that sounds like something you do.
Because you put a post out saying coming this May or words like that. As a
Yeah,
bit of a teaser, a bit of a launch, didn't you? So,
yeah, it was just kind of, I wanted to, it was a way of kind of putting pressure on myself in a good way. I've not really used social media that much. I don't post that much, but I mean, the main reason I set up a social media account was just to try and generate more funds, and also just to document it. But as a kind of, after a few weeks, I was like, I'm quite enjoying posting stuff. So, aye, but
yeah. So, Instagram handle is Trossic_trails, and we'll put that link in the show notes so people can go and have a look at it. And
yeah,
if they've not heard about it, it's brilliantly documented, and well done on doing that, because that takes time as well, to be writing a wee script every day and to be taking the photographs, especially after having run a marathon.
I know. Well,
Yeah.
I think the taking the photographs part probably helped because it was a wee break every now and then. But the script, I would often finish the day and my brain would just be too frazzled. Try and write it, and I'd be like, oh, I can't think. And then I'd have something to eat, and then it would just like words would come to me. So, but it did become a wee bit difficult towards the end when I was very tired to kind of put that together.
You mentioned you had a van, and there must have
Yeah.
been a bit of a crew. You mentioned, I don't know if there was other people supporting you. You mentioned you were alone the further up you went. Say a wee bit about the people who were involved around about you.
So when I started, well, I was meant to be with my dad and my uncle when I started, but my dad's sister's husband, my uncle, died. So my dad had to be down at the funeral, so he wasn't able to join me and I wasn't able to go, which was a shame. But so my uncle ended up taking me to the start line. So my uncle is my mum's brother, and he lives in Selkirk, which is pretty close to where I finished at the end of day one. So that was kind of a nice fit. And then from there, like the Central Belt, I was either going home, going to my dad's, basically, and he would maybe shuttle me about, or my wife would shuttle me about a little bit. And then when I got a wee bit sort of, where did I get to? Past Bridge of Orchy, so up to like Glencoe on the West Highland Way, stayed in a hostel, and I stayed in a hostel in Fort William, stayed in a hostel a bit further north from there, Glengarry. And then after that, Dad came up in the camper van, so met him. I don't know if you know, sort of Glen Shiel area, which is on the way up to Skye. You would know it. You would go if you've been to Skye, then you've gone through it. So he arrived in the camper van. He wasn't well, and he managed to smash the wing mirror in the camper van. So it wasn't a good start. And then we couldn't get any water in the camper van that night, or for a few nights actually. So there was no shower. So it was a bit of a disaster, but we kind of got used to it. So yeah, for that last week, my dad was supporting me. And we were kind of sleeping on bunk beds, and he was below me, coughing away all night when he wasn't snoring.
So, when you're saying you went from hostel to hostel, were you running with your pack, with your gear?
Yeah, I was. So I was basically wearing the same stuff 2 days in a row. But my sister joined me for part of that, so she kind of helped. She was on the bike, so she helped carry some stuff that day. But yeah, I was traveling. It was quite, those 3 days were a bit logistically difficult. Ended up kind of just not taking stuff that I wanted to, and picking up food on the way and just wearing what I'd worn, and it was a bit minging for other people in the hostel. But
Sorry. Now, running a 2:21 marathon, running sub-3 marathons, many of them, it's a bit different than running as I said earlier on, it's a bit different than running a marathon distance on a trail. But you'd committed to running as much as you could. Yeah. So, because I mean, you could go out and hike, or that. Was that term? You could jeff it. You could run, walk it. You could do that, but you were committing to running 99% of this. How did that work out?
I think I've seen, a lot of people do run to like Land's End to Johnny Gropes, and then you look at their pace and you think, are you really running? So, and I just thought, stopping's fine, but if I want to try and run as much as possible. So I knew that injuries might come into it and I might have to walk it. So it was always a fallback that I could be walking it, and that would be fine. If I was injured and I had to walk it, no bother. But I just thought, no, I want to like, if I can run, I'm going to run. And even if I have to, like, there was sections that were just pure bog or just trudging over heather. So I'd maybe only run for 10 minutes and then I'd just take a wee rest and then go again. So I would do that, and that kind of made it a bit more manageable. But yeah, I was quite set on not walking unless I had to.
Yeah, fair play to you, because I'm sorry, talking from my perspective, that's all well and good on day one and day two, but when you get further into it, that becomes more of a mindset, a more challenging mindset, and to be disciplined to keep running is testament to you. Training for this is different. You mentioned that you'd walked at the first few bits anyway, you knew where you were going, but the physical demand on your body, because doing a training block, you either do, I don't know, 12, 14 or 16 weeks for that 26.2 miles. When did you start focusing on this event in May, and what was your training like? Or how long was the training block in the build-up?
Yeah, so probably started middle of January. So that would be, 16 weeks or so, something like that. To be honest, I wasn't sure how to train for it, to be quite honest. So I was using ChatGPT to tell me what to do. But I mean, because I run like kind of 70 to 80 miles most weeks anyway. So I've got a kind of structure of, I run pretty much every day anyway. So there were certain things that didn't really change. So usually I would do 2 sessions a week. So I cut that back down to 1. And I just thought I want to kind of keep my legs ticking over a wee bit. That was the kind of only reason I was still doing sessions, just so that when I was running, basically, so slower paces felt easier. And then each of my long runs, I was forcing myself to do slower than I would probably naturally have done.
And how was that? How was that to go slow?
That was great. There was some days when I felt really good and I'd have to like hold myself back. But generally it was nice because I was doing all my training out in Aberfoyle, which is a really nice place to train. So I was just in the forest there. So I was just taking my time, and I'd stop. I was practicing taking on food. So it felt like a good change, because my kind of most recent kind of training memory was Valencia. So I was ready for something else. So no, it felt good. I would say now, having just done this, I feel ready to do a bit faster stuff again, which is good, which I'm kind of happy about. It shows that it was just I needed a break from that, rather than it being like, oh, I've kind of fallen out of love with racing or whatever. I just needed a change.
It's a hell of a change. It's a hell of a change to go from running, because I was going to ask you when you were talking about your introduction, what your favourite distance was, but I think that is, well, it's quite obvious to me that was marathon. When you were talking, that was your preferred distance and what you were competing at and doing so well at.
I think.
Sorry, when you go.
Sorry, I think probably half marathon's my favourite, but
Okay.
I think with marathons, it's the distance that kind of focuses you to train really properly. So I think when I'm training, like say if I'm training for a half marathon, I wouldn't say it's half-arsed at all, but it's never like, it's not all like the be all and end all, because you know if it doesn't go well, then you just basically go back to training on a Monday. Whereas with a marathon, it's if it doesn't go well, then you've got 3 weeks where you need to kind of start again. So I just think it's the distance that kind of focuses my mind in terms of my training. But I'm definitely better at the longer stuff, but probably a half marathon is my favourite racing distance.
Okay. This is like a short interval, because at some point, Stephen, our co-host, will listen into this and say, John, Gregor mentioned football, and you've not asked him about football. So this is the official interval. You said you played football up to about the age of 29, or you got to 29 and you were
29, 30,
so
yeah.
What sort of level did you play football to?
No decent level, I wouldn't say. Like just fives, and played like 11s as like a 16-year-old for my like village team and stuff, and then played at school a wee bit. It was mostly just fives, really, like fives twice a week. But I loved it. I loved football. I do miss it a wee bit.
Right. Are you a football supporter as well, of a club? Or
Yeah, so sport. I mean, I grew up supporting kind of Celtic and Liverpool, but until this season, I think the Scottish League's been a wee bit boring for a while. So, albeit Celtic are winning the league, but I've kind of moved more to Liverpool, which is my dad's team growing up as well.
Favourite player? When you were playing fives or 11s, who did you imagine you were?
Can I give a few?
Oh, of course you can.
Well, it would be Stevie G, but he's out now, obviously. Can't say him anymore.
You can. He was a brilliant football player.
Henrik, obviously.
Yeah.
Henrik Larsson, I would be doing the chip of Stefan Klos in the 6-2 game.
Yeah.
I suppose Moravcik from that time. And then probably Ronaldinho and Zidane.
We're going multinational. Brilliant.
Aye. Those are my five.
Okay. And just to wrap this up with football, because the World Cup starts this weekend. This episode will go out this weekend, which will be the official, maybe this is the official launch of the World Cup. Maybe the Young Hearts Run Free boys are doing that.
Oh, pressure.
How are you feeling about Scotland's chances in the World Cup?
I'm feeling better now based on the last couple of friendlies. Although there's a wee part of me that thinks that we just scored all our goals for the next 2 years in those two friendlies. I don't know. It's the same. It's always the same with Scotland. The games you think you should win are never the easy ones. So,
especially in World Cups, I'm old enough to remember back to like 1970. I'm 60. I remember World Cup 1970 and then 1974, West Germany. It was, and there was games, and then you go to Argentina. You think you're playing Peru and Iran. You'll beat them, bother. That's not the case. So we'll wait and see. But our very best wishes go to everybody across in America supporting all the home nations.
Well, Haiti beat New Zealand 4-0, so I'm a wee bit worried about that now. Not that New Zealand are that good, but still.
It'll be exciting. Right, back to running. Back to your story. You mentioned your dad a few times now. Say a bit about your dad. He took you up all the hills as a bairn. He supported you on this run. Say a bit about your dad.
So my dad he's a bit of an action man. He was always doing something. So he ran as well. So he started running probably a wee bit later than me. So kind of mid-30s to his early 40s. Well, no, he's ran his whole life, but kind of competitively at that age. And then he had his family sort of, well, he had a young family at that stage, so he couldn't kind of continue to take it on competitively. But then he got into hill walking about 1993, and then just every sort of 4 or 5 years, he was just doing cycles of completing the Munros. So he's done 5 of them. So he's on his 6th round, but he's 78 now, and he's got a new hip. So he likes to say he got a new hip for Christmas. So he's not been doing much for the last year, shall we say? So he's slowing down a wee bit, but yeah, he's been a big supporter of kind of my running over the years, sort of turning up to races and driving me places. You know, if I've got a crazy idea, I want to do this run, he'll like drive me somewhere and then meet me at the end. So he's been a big part of it. So don't like to be too nice about it, but, you know.
Oh no, of course not. We're Scottish after all. Okay, back to the trail. You're going through, starting on the borders and going up to the very tip of Scotland to the north. You're going through all different sorts of terrain, and I'm assuming, you can keep me right here, I'm assuming it gets more challenging the further north you go. Was there a section that you loved more than any others?
Yeah, so it does get more challenging. Definitely gets a lot more challenging, but for me it was kind of helpful that it got more challenging, because I was having some bad Achilles issues, and heel issues, which were basically just to do with like repetitive, basically pounding my feet. So once I got a bit further north, as I say, Glengarry, from there you're kind of running, although you're running on trails quite a lot of these trails are not really trails, it's just bog and heather. So, but that terrain really helped my feet. So I might be on very difficult terrain for sort of like 5 or 6 kilometers, but that would give my feet a bit of a break. So I think that kind of saved me.
When you say more difficult terrain, you talk about it because it's more spongy. You're not getting the...
Well, there's not like a lot of it, like they would say there was a path, but there wasn't a path. So it was spongy, so you'd be going over peat hags and heather and grass and bogs, and but it was a lot more kind of forgiving on your feet.
Yeah, you're not getting the pound.
Yeah, because it was always the sections where I was on a hard track where I was feeling my injuries the worst. So I knew I needed to get away from that kind of terrain.
When did these heel Achilles things start happening with regards to the amount of days you were out?
Well, I remember day 2 I got like quite a really sore Achilles, and then I didn't feel it at all till I think day 6. Day 6 was so day 5 was the day up the side of Loch Lomond, which was the worst day of all because it was torrential rain, and anybody that's done the West Highland Way race knows that it's a brutal part of, or anybody who's done the West Highland Way knows it's pretty brutal up that side of Loch Lomond. So I finished that day pretty broken, I would say. And actually, I was thinking, I don't know if I was pretty doubtful that I'd be able to finish the whole thing. And then the next day, I started, and it was like there was just pains going across all different. It was like my Achilles, and then it would be my left knee, and then it would be my right knee, and then left Achilles, and then it would be like my hamstring. It was like pain was just trying to decide where to settle. And then it settled mostly on my right Achilles. So it was probably from day 6, but then it was kind of manageable from there on. And then day 10, it was agony at about halfway. But that was the point where I came off it was kind of fortunate at that point because I came off the tarmac and then I was running through glens and over more rugged terrain. So that kind of saved me, because I think I probably would have given up if I'd had to run on that kind of harder surface for much longer.
That's a statement, but would you though? Anyway, we'll come back to that. But because for what you've described, I'm trying to imagine this. Up until the loch side, you're on pretty similar going up there. So it's the same thing that's happening. But that loch side, you're using different muscles because it bits of that. You're scrambling, you're stretching, you're doing different things with your legs and your arms as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
Did you have access to a masseuse or a physio at all?
No.
Oh, man. So you haven't had like massage your own
Yeah.
legs and...
Aye, what I found was, so towards the end, it was always agony when I started. So every day from like day 13 onwards, it was really sore. So it was just the same every day. I would run for about half a kilometre. It was agony, and then I'd stop and kind of massage it for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'd start running, and it would be a wee bit painful, and then it would go away. For it would still be noticeable, but it was that I kind of got to the point where I knew how to manage it. I
Mm-hmm.
was obviously worried about kind of longer term, what kind of damage is it doing, but I knew by that point I could probably finish, and I could manage it.
Okay. When it was sore like that, I think I know the answer, but what drove you on?
Um, I don't know. I guess lots of things. Donations, mum, just how much I'd committed to the challenge, good music. um, I don't know. I know I just said that I might not have continued after, like, I might not have finished at that point. So there's only one point where I was like, I'm really struggling and I might not continue. But the rest of it was just kind of like manageable pain. And I think I've done enough kind of hard training to like
Yep.
know how to dig in. I've kind of got that in me
Yeah.
to just keep going when you don't want to. I've kind of developed that. Like I wouldn't always say like I've got that naturally, but I've developed it through training over many years.
And I think running a sub 2:30 marathon, there's got to be a bit somewhere in there, still about mile 20, where you think, oh,
Yeah,
let's get this done. You know.
yeah.
But are you happy to speak about any low points? Your lowest point? You happy to speak about that?
Yeah. I don't think. I mean that day 5 up the side of the Loch Lomond was pretty low, but it was big. It was torrential rain all day. Um, I remember my dad picked me up, and he was like quite excitable, and I was just like, I was like, no, just like take me to the shop. I need food, and just drive me home. Because I was just already thinking about the next day. I was like, right, how do I recover for tomorrow? Because I just felt totally like battered, completely
Mm,
battered, and just a bit dejected from just being poured on all day and like just the compounding effect of multiple marathons. But I don't think there weren't like major lows. I
okay.
think every morning I woke up, I was a bit like, oh God, I've got to do this again. But coffee, bit of a move, and it probably got worse each as I got further in. I felt more tired every like I would need 3 coffees like
Yeah.
towards the end.
Yeah.
But once I started, sorry, once I started each day, the further I got into it, the more natural running felt.
Mm-hmm.
So I would obviously have bad patches each day, but by sort of day 14, I was off sort of day 13, 14, 15. I was often feeling best at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I didn't always want to stop.
How did you start your days? Breakfast. What did you have for breakfast?
Porridge usually, or just like a banana porridge, or like one of those porridge bar things you get.
Yeah, yeah. And then as you progress through each day, how were you feeling yourself? This is part of the learning as well,
Yeah.
because you're going slower than you went in your training for and running your actual marathon races. You're going slower, so the feeling's got to be a wee bit different. What was happening for you on a daily
Uh,
basis? What were you taking in?
um, so I think initially I had quite a decent. What I didn't want to do is to be taking gels all the time because for 17 days I just didn't want to be taking on that amount of sugar just
Yeah.
for my teeth and for my heart health. So plan was always to try and eat as much real food as I could, and I used gels kind of as a last resort. And I would say I probably had them most days towards the end, but so it was mostly like cereal bars, potatoes. If my dad had the camper van, I'd maybe make up a wee bit of pasta or rice. Um, But as I got further in, so on day 3, I did that section with a couple of ultra runners, and one of them's pretty good ultra runner, so he does the West Highland Way race. And his approach to fueling was like very casual. And that kind of helped, because I thought, I just need to get calories in. Like, fundamentally, that's like the main thing. So I think after about day 5 or 6, I started just thinking about it a bit more in those terms, rather than kind of getting perfection and thinking, oh, I need to not get too much fiber, or I don't want to get too much protein because I might not digest it. I found I was digesting things quite well.
Good.
So I would probably go like Kinloch leaving. By that point, I was pretty knackered when I got there, and I just had a pasta pot, had a sandwich, had a packet of crisps, had a coffee, had like a Twix or something. Because by that point, I kind of knew. I don't think I would have done that early on, because I was kind of thinking, oh, I need to get my fueling perfect. But by that point, I was just thinking, I just need to eat. I need to like, you would have some spells where you know your body was in a bit of deficit, and you're just like, I just need to get a lot of fuel in. So I wasn't that like meticulous about it. It was just getting the fuel in.
Give me anything, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think as well,
got.
we've spoke a lot about. I always remember, I think it might have been Marco Consani that said it to Scott Nichol, but it was certainly Scott Nichol said it to me on a bus. It was that you have to eat, because it's not just your body, it's your brain. You know, you're making better decisions when you're fueled properly. Stephen often says that low mood, eat food. This is just a thing. So would you be in, did you have a wee alarm on your watch, 30, 40 minutes, or were you just eating when you felt like eating?
I would eat every 10, I would make sure I ate every 10k, but there was nothing that scientific about that. It was just a kind of like, once it started, I would always make myself have something at 10k. And then I would usually have something bigger, sort of between about 23 to 27k, just to kind of see me through the day, especially towards the end where I had the camper van, so I could get like a wee meal.
That was my next question. What was your favourite meal you had at the end of a run across the whole adventure?
That's a good question. I had a few good cheese toasties along the way.
Brown bread or white with your toasty?
Oh, it was too much fibre in brown bread, so it'd have to be light, wouldn't it?
Onion on it, or just cheese?
Oh, yeah, the cheese and onion one, yeah.
Brilliant.
Think about onion. I think, yeah, probably a cheese toasty with chips. Although I had a good meal in Bridge of Orkney, in the hotel there. That was fairly early on, so I remember I ordered, I was with my dad, and I was like, Dad, you can have my chips, I'm not going to eat them. And then I had like one, and then I was like, and then from there you've got to kind of climb up the hill.
Yeah.
But it was okay. It was just slow. I was like, right, just get up the hill slowly. Managed to get up there without a stitch, so that was fine. So good. From there, it was like, if I need to eat a lot, I'm going to eat a lot.
Yeah. And I think any other future adventures like that you might take on, there'll be lots of learning you've taken in. So it was good you mentioned that person that runs the ultra runner that runs the West Highland Way race, that maybe was very fortunate to have had that person run with you. Do you want to give them a shout out? Do you want to see who they are?
I don't really know them that well. It was like a mate's mate.
Okay, that's cool. I don't
actually know his first name, to be honest.
That's all right. But
no, that was like day 3, so it was it was helpful.
Yeah, but it's that passing on of knowledge of somebody.
Yeah. It's good to get that.
About what to do. Can we speak a wee bit about the kit you were wearing? What shoes did you have on? Stephen's a big shoe fan, so what shoes were you wearing?
I had on Asics. I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. Can Google it.
That's all right.
It's come to me. Trabuco Max, they were called.
See, that means nothing to me, but Stephen, I know exactly what you're talking about. But that'd be a change of shoe than you were used to using running marathons, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, oh, definitely. To be honest, I didn't know what I was doing when I was looking for shoes. So I went in to run for it. I said, what shoes should I get? And they said, I would get these ones. We don't stock them. And then he looked up and said, you can get them for 99 quid on Sports Shoe. So
Brilliant.
that was quite good. They were good. They were very padded. I would like pretty good support. So I got another pair of Nike. I can't remember, Nike something that I really didn't like. They were a lot firmer, and I
Okay.
wore them once, and I thought I don't like these. Although they got good reviews, those are the two that kind of came up with the best reviews for this type of running. But I much prefer the Asics ones.
Okay, that's cool. Shout out to Asics. We'll tag them in. We'll tag
Right.
them in as well. Brilliant. And what about, well, that same kit that you wore, was it just a normal running kit, or was it shorts with pockets, more pockets?
I just the Nike Trail running shorts where so they've got more pockets, but because it's back, there's lots of pockets in your bags, and then you've got a flip belt and stuff like that. So I'd use a flip belt as well. So
But you wouldn't be used to running with them, would you? Was that a new experience too?
I always run with the flip. Yeah, run with the flip belt, but yeah, no, it was running with the bag was a totally new experience. But you do get used to it.
Yeah, but that can maybe take a few days settling in to get things sugar the boot and how it's going all right, you
Yeah,
know?
every day I was like, right, put your snacks in the side bit, and then I'd start running like, oh, put it in the bag. So it took me about 8 days to remember, but
And there's so many pockets in these vests as well, eh? You're
yeah,
looking
and
at
you're
the
like,
same.
we're right, you run zipping it, and you're like, why is it not there? And then you're like,
Brilliant. Brilliant. Pulling a head torch out. You mentioned earlier on when I asked you about how you kept going, and you mentioned you touched a wee bit on the amount of donations that had come in. It's quite phenomenal, the amount of money that you've raised because of this and continue to raise. And we'll put the link to the Strathcarron Hospice fundraiser in the show notes as well. We'll certainly do that. But can you speak about the messages, the donations that were coming in when you were doing this in memory of your mum? Do you want to say a wee bit about how that helped and inspired?
aye, so I think with something like this, it's always a bit tricky because people think, should I sponsor them at the end once they've done it? And I think probably for a lot of Scottish males, that's the way they do it. I'm like, I'm not sponsoring you till you've done it. So, and then, but yeah, I think I got about 300 donations, and I've raised about £17,000 at the moment. So that's including gift aid. I'm about 14.3 before gift aid, something like that. My target's 15, so I'm 700 quid off my target. But yeah, in terms of just messages coming in every day, it was nice because it was often from people that I've not seen for quite a while, like people from school or I don't know, you just meet lots of people in life that like kind of go out your life, and then you realise I'm like, oh, they're aware of what I'm doing. Like I kind of became aware that certain people that I'd not seen for a while were aware of what I was doing. So yeah, it was nice when there was somebody that you'd not seen in your life for a while, kind of giving you money and giving you a wee message of support. It was good.
And the
And you do
brilliant.
realise who your kind of main supporters are in life when you do something big like this,
Oh,
and
definitely.
who aren't.
But it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant as well to think that there's people maybe that, and because life, we go through phases of life and people are there and then they're not. But it's brilliant to think that some of your pals that you've maybe not seen for a while, they'll be meeting up and they'll go, have you seen what Gregor's up to?
I
You
know,
know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's brilliant. And then they go on social media and then they're putting a donation in and sending a wee message. Did you read these messages on a daily basis or were you staying away from that? Is that too emotional or?
I think no. Before I started, that was definitely my thinking. I was like, yes, before I start each day, I'll read these messages, and that'll be my motivation for the day. But it didn't always work out like that, just because your shoes are damp and you're sorting something in the camper van, and then you're trying to find your t-shirt, and it's like, I need to get started, and you're getting food, and you're, I don't know, the camper van's a bit of a mess. So it wasn't as, it didn't always go in my head, but often at night, and then sometimes at night I wouldn't have signal, so I couldn't look at these
Yeah.
things. But I was always kind of keeping tabs on things as I was going, and I think there's probably a wee bit of guilt, because a lot of people would message you and you think, I've not replied to that person, and all
Aye.
that kind of stuff, and you'd feel a wee bit bad sometimes. But no, it was definitely very helpful getting all that along the way and feeling that support. I think that's it. Like, I've always said, I want people's support. I don't really care if they think it's amazing, as long as they support me.
Yeah,
So that's,
definitely. And you were feeling that though. You were getting that.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. The night times, because running a marathon, there's recovery. Running a marathon every day demands recovery. How was your body at night? You mentioned about your Achilles and your heels. How were you getting a good night's sleep? Were you resting? What was happening at night time?
It took me about 6 days to get a good sleep, I would say. It's funny because there's a guy running to John O'Groats at the moment, and he's about day 8 in, and he's saying, "Oh, I haven't slept," and I was going to message him and say, "Oh, come, don't worry." I think it's just like those first few days, your body's kind of in shock, and it's trying to adapt to your new kind of normal. So I found it really difficult. I didn't sleep at all well initially. So everybody was saying, "Oh, you'll be sleeping like a baby," but I wasn't.
You'll
But
be
then I kind of
knackered.
adapt.
You'll be knackered doing that, you know?
Aye. I thought as well, in my head, I was like, right, if I can finish at 3 o'clock each day, then I'll go for a nap. But I was always too wired at that point, at the end of it, to go for it. I never had a nap at all.
Mm.
So I would say, I mean, I obviously got enough sleep to do it, but I wasn't sleeping amazingly. I wasn't sleeping probably enough, sleeping 7 hours or whatever, seven,
Yeah.
8 hours.
And then it's up and away again the next day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was always, the start of each day was always just start running. Like, don't worry about anything. Like, don't worry about the end of the day or how fast you're going. Just make a start. That was always what I said. Just make a start, and then you'd get into it. So I never
See,
felt totally exhausted. I never got into a state of feeling like, oh, I'm really chronically exhausted here.
but then that's maybe a lot to do. Oh, sorry, maybe it is a lot to do with your preparation and your mindset and your reason for doing it, your why, your motivation
Yeah.
would drive you on. And you're also a very fit person too. You're prepared for this, although you're going into the unknown really, not having done this multi-day event for half a month for doing a marathon
Yeah.
every day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, did you have any preferred kit that you liked wearing? Or you're not bothered about that as long as you've got shorts and t-shirt on, you're all right.
Well, I'm not too fussed really. Aye, just Sea Sky t-shirts are quite light, bloody expensive.
Yeah, they are. They're good though. They're
I bought
quality
one
gear.
before and I thought, well, this feels really nice and light, so I ended up buying 2 more, but they're really expensive. I mean, I just often just wear like race t-shirts and stuff, but
Okay.
I did wear nice t-shirts for it. I thought if I'm running a marathon, I'm going to run it in a nice t-shirt. And then just like the Nike Trail stuff I used, but
Okay.
and then had the Salomon bag, which was good, but I've not really got a reference point for that because I've never used the bag before, so but it worked.
But it all worked. It all worked. Say a wee bit about the north of Scotland, about the CapeWrath Trail, because I've heard there's a CapeWrath Ultra that's I don't think it happened, never happened this year, but it's going back again next year, I think.
Yeah.
But speak about that adventure, that terrain, what that was like.
Yeah. So there's different, as I understand, there's different variations of the route. So there's not one single route. I did parts of the trail. So there was I did quite a lot of the trail, but there's some sections that I just kind of joined it up with roads because it kind of worked better for what I was doing. But yeah, that part of Scotland is it's pretty unique. I think you go through, like, I definitely went through, like, you're in the borders and it's like, right, this is the borders, this is nice rolling countryside, and you get to the Central Belt and you're like, this is not very nice. And you get to the West Highland Way and you're like, this is right, this is the Highlands. And then you get a bit further and you're like, no, this is the Highlands. And then you get to the far north of the Scotland and you're like, no, this is like another level of like Scottish ruggedness. It's amazing. I would say those days, so there was good weather sort of down south, for like down in the Central Belt where I'm from, for a few days, and it never came up. It was like threatening to come up for days, so it was quite frustrating. And then it did on about day 13 or 14, and then I just had like two like just absolutely amazing days and like amazing scenery. Those were probably like the two most scenic days. But yeah, I love it. I've always like loved Scotland, but it's given me a kind of reminder of how amazing Scotland is and how like diverse it is in terms of different landscapes.
And towards the end of your adventure, the remoteness up there, how did that feel? It's just you.
I'd say it felt good.
Yeah.
I loved it. Probably wouldn't want it to go on forever, but I no, I didn't really. Although my feet were hurting quite a lot, there was part of me that didn't really want it to end. I was like, I was in a good sort of rhythm of running, and like scenery was amazing. Just felt like pretty natural. I felt
Yeah.
like a bit of a feral caveman probably by that point.
Which is always a good place to be.
Oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And then let's what was the most challenging bit at the CapeWrath end? What was the most challenging bit there?
I mean, the last day was pretty challenging because I lost the path. It was just up and down and boggy. That section's just because there's not, there is a bit of a path, but I lost it. So, but yeah, there's just from about day 10 onwards, there's just lots of little like 5-6 kilometer sections where you're basically trudging over something and there's not much of a path for a while. But it would never be for more than 5 or 6 kilometers at a time, and then you would get onto some kind of path, and that change kind of helped. And you would think you get onto a path and you think, right, 7 kilometers now, I can just get my head down and get through this until I get into the next bit of terrain. But that change of terrain does kind of break it up in a useful way.
Had you plotted this on like a GPX? Did you have it on your watch, anything like that? Or were you just
No, I had it on my phone, so I just had it on. Probably should have probably had it on my watch, but I just had it on my phone, like Ordnance Survey map on my phone. So I was
yeah?
just following that. So I made a few navigation mistakes, but nothing fatal, thankfully. I
OS
was
map.
wary of that though, just being out, because there was one day that I was away from the road for like 32 kilometers or something. So you leave the road and I don't think I saw anybody that day. So you do get a bit of a sense of, oh, something goes wrong here. Who's going
Yeah.
to find me and
I
when?
mean, it's sometimes great not to see anybody, but the other side of it is, wait a wee minute.
I know.
You know? Yeah. OS Maps app is fantastic as well, isn't it?
It is. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
really, really good thing. I have that now as well, and I love just exploring it. Actually, just
I
looking
know.
around about some stuff. I was on. I was away on holiday while you were in your last week, but I was keeping tabs on it on Instagram, and there's a photograph of your last day running through a finished tape. Speak to us. Talk us through your last day, Gregor.
So start of the day, me and Dad had parked. It's a very wild part of Scotland up there, and the weather wasn't that good that day, so we're just kind of sitting down by the sea up near CapeWrath, 13 miles south of CapeWrath. It's just a horrible night, but we're both just kind of sitting there. And then woke up the next morning And it was a bit of a kind of drizzly day, but I was definitely, I was well aware that it was coming to an end. I could feel that. And I'd had such a good day like 2 days before that in terms of the weather and just how amazing like the scenery and everything was. I wasn't that bothered about how the last day went because I'd had such a kind of good few days. I was like, actually, there was a wee part of me that was like, I hope it's really tough today because this is the last day. Don't know what that says about my mindset. Um, but aye, so it was a shorter day, so it was only 14 kilometers, 14 miles, sorry. But for the first 6 miles, you're just on a track, and then you end up at Sandwood Bay, which is a massive beach. And I got to that probably 11 o'clock or something, and like again, there's nobody on the beach. It's a huge, like rugged Scottish beach. I would say that was a very emotional. I knew like that day was going to be emotional, so I thought, right, I'll get my emotions out here before I have to see anyone. But it was just amazing. It's really somewhere that's worth going to. It's like amazing because you can kind of see the cliffs at CapeWrath sort of in the distance of a few miles in distance. So spent a bit of time on the beach because I knew my family were arriving, so I wanted to sync it with the bus arriving. I knew I had quite a lot of time, so I kind of messed about. And then got to the other end of the beach, and you go up a bit of a trip. You have to go up for a bit, and then I ended up losing the track, so I ended up heading kind of east instead of going north. So much of that day was just spent trudging through bog and heather, and it was like drizzly. It wasn't that day wasn't that nice, but I wasn't too bothered because I knew I'd get to the end. It was a shorter day, and then I got to kind of just before. So a lot of the time you could see the lighthouse at CapeWrath, so it was kind of a bit of a beacon, and you could. It often looked like a really long way away, but it was helpful just to see that. And then so there's a track that goes up. So basically, you need to get a ferry over, and then you've got an hour and 10-minute drive to get to CapeWrath. So eventually, I got onto that track about a kilometre from the finish and ran up it a wee bit. And I thought, right, I'll just wait for the bus because the bus was due maybe in 20 minutes or so. But I waited an hour and the bus never came.
Oh man.
So, and I was getting cold. I was getting really cold because I had a jacket, but it was a thin jacket. So I thought, I've done the last 5 days on my own, I'll just finish it on my own. So I just went and finished on my own. And the lighthouse is nice, but it's all a bit scruffy and underwhelming when you get there until you go beyond the lighthouse and then you can see the cliffs, and that's really cool. So got to the cliffs, and it was just kind of, I felt quite emotional, but it was on my own. And then my family arrived, my sister, my wife, and my dad, and my sister had made this tape with basically said my name and then Strathcarron Hospice. So they held the tape and I embarrassingly ran through it.
A lovely touch. Well done to your sister for doing that.
Yeah, so that was nice. And then it was, I think I was a wee bit vacant for a while. I think they were expecting me to be like, oh, it's great to see you. And I was obviously pleased to see them, but I was in their head a lot, given what I'd just done. So it took me a few days to get back onto planet Earth, I'd say.
It's a lot to process. Although you've been out there for a good scalp of time, it's a lot to process when it's finished. Because when you take that final step or you touch whatever it is you do, that's it, you're finished. And then you've then got to turn around and go back to reality a wee bit, haven't
Oh
you?
no.
You know, and you might not want to do that right away. So
No.
what happened the rest of that day? Did you just make your way down the road
Um,
or?
so there's a wee cafe, we got a coffee. It was so there was a lot of tourists, quite because it's part of the NC 500, so it's something not a lot of tourists do. So there was a lot of kind of American tourists there, just on a wee day trip. So I was back on the minibus with all the tourists, uh, going back to the ferry. So it did feel like a bit of a return to reality, and I was a bit like, oh man.
Oh, that noise.
It was just, yeah, I was in my own head quite a lot. And then I had a few days up north at a beach called Achmelvik, which is maybe an hour south, but a bit more than an hour south from there, which was quite nice. And then came back And then I was back at work on the Tuesday. Um,
Wow.
and well, I worked from home, which was fine because, I was sorting emails and stuff. It was a bit tough. I was a bit low that day, and then I went into work and saw everyone, and I felt a bit better. But I was definitely a lull for a few days, as I knew there would be. But I would say now I feel kind of ready to get back to normal and do kind of, the mundane stuff.
Yeah. But
Or just
listen,
enjoy the little things rather than thinking about something as big as that. So
it's the 10th of June. It's less than 2 weeks since you've
I
completed, so
thought you were going to say till the World Cup, and I was like, no, it's 2 days.
um, but then do you feel you've had time to process what happened?
Well, no, I think there's a bit more to be done, but I think when you see that much in a day, it's kind of like it's difficult to like take everything in, and then you don't get a chance to process it the next day because the next day is like crazy, and you're seeing loads of different stuff, and you've got to like navigate and problem solve and deal with tiredness and injury and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, there probably is still quite a lot more processing to be done. But I'll just let that kind of come to me.
Is there a moment, if somebody was to say what I'm saying just now, is there a moment that jumps into your mind about what happened, an outstanding moment over the course of your adventure?
Yeah, I would say there's probably one, like day 16. I wouldn't say day 16 was that like it wasn't a very nice day. First bit was like going over a bit of, not bog, but it was, it's a bit of a theme this. It wasn't that spectacular. And then I'd met Dad, and it was pouring with rain, and we parked in the camper van at the bottom of a hill. It was on the NC 500, so it was quite a busy road. So I'd had something to eat, had a coffee, didn't want to get out the van, eventually got out the van, started running, was going up the hill, just felt like crap basically for a while. And then, I don't know, I put some music on and I just started feeling a bit better. And then I had probably like 4 or 5 miles where it's like the best I've ever felt running. And it must have been to do with knowing I was finishing as well. It was like a mental thing as well. As like I was obviously adapting to running that amount, but it was like mentally, I don't know, it was at the end of that day I didn't want to finish. So my dad was going to go to a cafe and get something to eat, and he was like, well, let's just stop here. And I was like, no, I'm going to run as far as I possibly can. So those last few days, it was just, I didn't really want to stop. But yeah, there was a moment there where I was like, looked at my watch and I was like going about, I was like running at like 5:20 a mile or something. I was going
Flying
downhill a
going
wee
into
bit. And then I got to the bottom of the hill and I was like, started going up and I was like, oh, my knees are agony. So, and it was a bit of a like, yeah, like, calm down. But yeah, no, I definitely got into like a state of like quite amazing euphoria for like maybe 20 minutes or something there. And I had a few of those, but it was mostly later on.
Brilliant. 415 miles in 17 days is quite the feat, man. Absolutely phenomenal running. So congratulations on doing that. Did you learn anything about yourself over the course of these days? Or is it too early to say?
Um, I definitely did, but sometimes it's definitely it doesn't always come like I know it has, but I'm like still processing a wee bit about what exactly it is. I would say one thing, although I kind of knew because it's why I did it, definitely not as bothered about running for times. Like I'll still do that, but I think you can have like this for me was the best experience I've ever had in running. Like if I could only have one memory from running the rest of my life, it would definitely be this over running like good marathons.
Yeah.
So I think the journey element is, I'd love to kind of replicate that journey element, but it's quite difficult because it's logistically, unless you've got somebody supporting you, it's logistically quite difficult. But yeah, I think it's probably something that comes to you when you get a bit older as well, isn't it? Like you realise your running times are not that important in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Would you say this adventure brought you joy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
would say
think
I
I
went into it positively and I loved it. Aye, I would say it brought me more joy than anything in running I've ever done.
brilliant. And let's put that male Scottish thing to the side just for a wee minute. How proud are you or of yourself?
Nah, not at all.
There you go.
Never. Rubbish.
Okay.
Funny on my Instagram actually, because I've got my personal Instagram and then I've got the one for this. And then on my I commented from my personal account saying I'm not that impressed.
Brilliant. Absolutely phenomenal. Brilliant.
No,
So your Instagram handle, as I said earlier on, it's Trossic_trails.
Trossix.
Trossic_trails.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
people listening in who've been inspired by listening to this, they might not want to run the length of the country, but is there a bit of Scotland you would encourage them to go to?
Yeah, I would say the best ascent in the far north, kind of Sutherland area, um, is probably. I knew it was kind of my favourite part of Scotland before, but the place that surprised me was probably the Borders. Um,
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's the nicest part of Scotland, but that was a really like that first day was a really beautiful part of Scotland to run in, and probably a lot more runnable than a lot of the stuff in the north.
Cool. Thank you very much. That's two for the price of one. We've got two questions to finish us up, and they're standard on the Young Hearts Run Free question set. One is a dialect dictionary. It can be a word where you're from, where you've been, a phrase you've heard or you've learned, something that's made you smile. What would you like to add into the dialect dictionary, Gregor?
I imagine it's probably been used before. It seems kind of apt because it was quite drizzly a lot of the time. Dreich would be my word.
Dreich. Dreich. Well, I don't think we can ever have too many entries of Dreich when we're
Have you
based
had a
in
few
Scotland.
already?
Not that I'm Not that I'm
Yeah.
aware of. Stephen might pick up right away on that, but no, not that I'm aware of. So Dreich, and listen, if you've ran the length of the country, you can put in whatever bloody word you like.
Aye.
So Dreich,
It's not the
Dreich
most
will do.
positive word though, is it?
No, but we know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Aye.
And then you've also hinted at music a couple of times when we've been through the conversation. We've got the Young Hearts Run Free playlist. I think it's volume 12. We never started at the season 3, volume 12 or 13 now. A very eclectic mix of
Yeah.
music that sometimes Young Hearts Run Free listeners and the hosts will put on as opposed to listening to podcasts. What song or
Mhm.
track would Gregor Yates like to add in and share with the listeners?
So I'm really into dance music. It's basically all I listen to. So
Okay.
um, I'll try and pick something that's not too offensive to people. So growing up, like as a 14-year-old, I loved Underworld, and as a 42-year-old, I still love Underworld. So I'm
Okay.
gonna say Underworld, Dark and Long.
Dark and Long. I don't know
It's
that.
a good it's a good running song. It's kind of yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought we were going down the Born Slippy route. There we go.
Ah, that's too common.
Everybody kens that. And
Aye.
let's
It's well,
educate them.
Dark and Long is also in Train Spotting though. If
Okay.
you've seen, yeah. So it's the the scene where there's a baby on the roof.
Oh
That's
yes.
the
Yes.
song that's playing there.
Okay. See, we're educating the masses. You're educating me, certainly. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. We thought we might be an hour. We're well over that, Gregor,
Oh,
which is no surprise. Which is no surprise. Um, I loved the story. We've got to say a big thank you to Debbie Martin Kinsani for bringing us together.
hmm
She'll be after a fee soon. She puts me in touch with a number of different folks. So, but a big, massive thank you to Debbie for doing that. It's been a brilliant listen and a great achievement, adventure. Doing it for all the right reasons. Doing it in memory of your dear mother, and then Strathcarron Hospice, who provided wonderful care for her. And the way you spoke about your family as well and how they were there at the end, I loved all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you've pushed yourself as well from being an elite marathon runner to taking on this multi-day staged event. And most multi-day events are over the course of 5 or 6 days or a week. But man, this has been like near enough 3 weeks that you've done that. So I'm sure there is a lot of processing still to do, and I'm sure you will learn loads about yourself. You're probably a different person. Maybe you just don't realise that yet. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be lots to go. But thank you so much, Gregor, for sharing your time. We will post your Instagram handle. We will post the fundraising link in the show notes and encourage people to throw in a few bob if they can. So, but thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
No, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it because I've not really had that full debrief with somebody. You know, you're talking about it a little bit here and there, but it's good to kind of get it all out there. So thank you.
Yeah, and this is maybe a wee bit as well for you, as you've said, about documenting it, and you can go back and listen to. Or you can say, rather than go out with your pals and them looking at you going, he's not going to talk about that again, is he? You can just send them the link to this podcast. And there you go. They can listen to that. And that will bring in, will now fade out the underworld, dark and long. Thank you, Greg.
Bringing it in now.
Yeah, we'll do that now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Right, thanks a lot, John. Great to speak to you.